Welcome to Africa Ascending Bites, the podcast series in which we hear the news, views and opinions of Mr. Udai Patel, CEO of Afro-Asian Insurance Services Ltd. Welcome, Udai.
Thank you, Liz.
Today we're going to continue Udai's travelogue around Africa. In the UK, we have a travel person called Michael Palin who loves to travel around Africa. I think Udai could give him a run for his money. But you were recently in Zambia, I believe.
Yes, I was in Lusaka.
Fantastic. So tell me about your trip to Zambia. Who did you meet? What was the market like? What was the vibe?
Well, the primary purpose of my trip was to catch up with our CEO of our subsidiary over there, which is Afro-Asian Insurance Services Zambia, and also to have specific renewal discussions on one of the big accounts that we have over there. That took probably 40% of my time. However, it gave me the opportunity of catching up with a few friends in the market. I dropped into Finsbury Re, and obviously the night before the meeting, we got a call to say, can you come an hour earlier? Which is like breakfast time in the morning, because we have a whole camera crew standing by to do a video podcast of you. And I was interviewed by Patrick Mwale, who's the Senior Manager, Treaty and Structured Solutions for Finsbury Re. And we had a good old chat for 20 minutes, and I believe it is due to be published quite shortly.
Do we know when, actually, Udai?
Not really,
no. Okay.
No.
So that's okay, because obviously it might be already published by the time this comes out.
No, it's not published already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So did they give you hair and makeup over breakfast?
Well, I think I was well coiffured at that time. So the answer is no, but it gave me the time to come up to speed as to what they're doing, exciting things. But then with quite a few exciting things going on in Zambia, it's a small market. What we are finding their space is getting very competitive. So insurance brokers are now getting a reinsurance broking license. Bigger organizations setting up reinsurance broking entities over there. So basically the broking space in the Zambian insurance market is getting quite busy because insurance brokers are now also getting reinsurance broking licenses. And some of the bigger insurance brokers are now leveraging their reinsurance broking license on the big risks, wanting that to be channeled. So they will only give the business to an insurer if they use their reinsurance broking license.
Okay. So I know there was some change in the regulations, wasn't there, around broking licenses? How has that all played out? Is that what's changed the market there? Is that why?
Well, it's not so much a change in the regulation surrounding the licensing. It's more to do with exhaustion of local capacity. So now there is a firm rule that the regulator has to sign off and be convinced that you have given local reinsurers a fair bite at the business before you go outside. So the law very clearly says that security rating is not required if it is a local reinsurer that's writing the business. But the moment you go outside Zambia, the placement has to be led by an A-rated security, followed by others who are not necessarily A-rated, but the leader has to be A-rated.
Okay. And has that made a difference to the market? Has that changed people's practices?
Well, I mean, the Zambian market has, I believe 6 reinsurers, including Zambia Re. They have a lot of gross capacity through their retros. So if they wanted to, most of the businesses' risks could be absorbed locally. But I had a very interesting meeting with Dr. Manchishi in the Commissioner's office, who's the number 2 there. I did point out to him that it is actually a recipe for spiral and a huge loss potentially to the local, which could affect the solvency of quite a few of these reinsurers if it's not checked. We had this some years ago in Nigeria with the Coca-Cola loss that affected all the insurers who'd retained their share to quite a considerable extent, and even the reinsurers. So it was a huge market loss. So you don't want the Zambian market at its stage of growth to be hit by a major loss, because you've got mining, which is quite major over there, and you have an underground mine which has a collapse. 50 or 100 million can be written off overnight. And I don't think that market is ready to sustain that sort of a loss.
And we all know that across the world there have been some it's not a fantasy, is it?
No.
It's a very real risk. No. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much indeed for that insight, Udai. Very, very good to hear. And thank you as always for joining Africa Ascending Bites. We really value this. As always, everybody, thank you for listening. You can access this at afapublishing.com, Afro-Asian-insurance.com, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts. And do tune in 2 weeks' time when we'll be hearing another expert opinion from Udai. Thank you very much.